I'm just going to go down and there's some images that were used for the preset samples. And so I thought it'd be good to use these so you can see how some of the sample pictures were created, the recipes that were used. Sorry, I had to get a little drink. Okay, and I'm going to use a variety of recipes, and I'm going to show you how to create snapshots. I'm going to show you how to correct problems that presets might create. I'm going to show you the difference that presets how different they will look on a well-exposed image versus an underexposed image. We will show how to tackle white balance issues that might be in there. And what else? Graduated filters as well. Probably talk a little bit about virtual copies, a little bit, but if you've been to any of my webinars, you know that I prefer snapshots. But we'll also talk about virtual copies. I'm sorry, I'm just so thirsty today. Alrighty. Okay, so what we're going to do is just slowly go through it and repeat the same process, maybe do a little bit things different here and there for different pictures and add in a few more techniques for y'all. So first things first, if you're brand new to Lightroom, you do all your editing in the Develop module, okay? The bottom here is your film strip. The left-hand side has your navigator, your presets, snapshots, which we'll use, history, which is fantastic. Start making use of that history, and collection. So any collections you make in the library, you can access right here, and I really enjoy that. Okay, so to see your presets, you click on the triangle. All right, now once you've installed presets, and I'm saying this right at the beginning because this is a huge problem for some people. Well, not for some. They will install everything perfectly right, do everything right, and then they think that they've installed it wrong, or something's wrong with the product because it's not opening up. See, they click, 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 and nothing happens. So yeah, you can just click on the word presets and it opens up, but you can't just click on the name of the collection. You have to click on the triangle. And I want to show this because, oh my gosh, we answer a lot of tickets where people swear that the presets are empty, they're not working, something's wrong, and what it is they just are not clicking the triangle. And we do have that in the installation guide. So if you're new and you've never installed presets before, please take time to read through the guide. And we have videos, we have tutorials online, and we try and make sure that you see that you have to click the triangle to open them up. All right, now when you start to use the presets, you can hover over the preset. You don't have to click on it, and you get a preview of what the preset will look like in the navigator panel. So if your navigator's panel is closed up, open that up while you're shopping for the right preset for your image. Now this is very important, and I think even people who've been using Lightroom for a while fail to hear this message. So I want to say it, and say it with love, that there isn't one preset that is perfect for every image out there. Presets are not one size fits all. They just aren't. Say Azalea. Azalea may look beautiful on 5 images and then look not so great on another 5. They are not one size fits all. The other thing is how they play on a well-exposed image versus an underexposed image can be night and day. All right? And I'm going to show that. So coming back to this, you can preview it as you hover over each one. Now, in order to apply the preset to have it take effect on your image, you have to click on it. So if I wanted cherry blossom, I would have to click cherry blossom, and then it applies to the image. And if you notice here, I'm going to close this up, that I'm going to reset, here we go. Okay, you see everything's at 0, right? Everything's 0, and this is a JPEG. This is, so we're not going to have a variety of different white balances, and we're not going to have a temp and tint settings here. So everything's at 0, and then watch when I click on, what was it, Daffodil? All right, so now my sliders change. And another question that comes up often is, can I layer the presets? And the answer is no, not these. You can't layer these. There are some collections like Clean and Creative Advanced or the Black and White Workflow, a little bit of Color Lux can be layered. And we can actually layer a couple more presets even in Enchanted Garden down here at the bottom. We can add a few effects to it and layer some effects on it. But we can't layer two creative presets on top of each other. And the reason is because they're competing for the same sliders, either in the basic panel or in the tone curve. These curves can't be at two places at once. Okay, and HSL, all these things cannot be in two locations at once. And so when you apply one preset and then you apply another, the second one is going to overwrite the settings of the first. It's very different than in Photoshop. You can play one action and then play another action and it layers on top of it. But that's not the way it is in Lightroom. And it just isn't. And we come to accept that. It was a big disappointment when I first started using Lightroom. I was like, why can't I layer? But I got used to it and that's okay. So here's Daffodil, and I love it. It's beautiful. And let's say I want to save this and be able to come back to it. So I'm going to take a snapshot, which is a moment in time. It's capturing this moment in time, all of these settings, and I can go back to it whenever I want to. Now, I'm going to use a lot of keyboard shortcuts if I'm going to tell you how to do those shortcuts, tell you what keys to click. So for a keyboard shortcut, for a snapshot, your keyboard shortcut is Command and the letter N. That's on an Apple or a Mac, okay? On a PC, it's Control and the letter N. N as in Nancy. So I'm on my Mac, so I'm going to do Command N. And this is going to make a new snapshot. And I'm going to put Daffodil. It's going to remind me of what preset I used. Okay, now you can see I've made some other ones here. But now let's come back here. So this is Daffodil. I might come down and say, okay, let's look at Dogwood. Well, see how my sliders changed, didn't they? Because I can't be in two places at once. It's going to override it. If I wanted to save this, I could do another snapshot. I'll reset here. Now, we could come down and you can preview each one. And this picture is so beautiful and so very kind of neutral that any preset most likely is going to look really good on it. All right. So let's say we have spring drama, pretty spring plus drama. And I chose this one because we might think, gosh, there's a little bit too much contrast on her face and I just don't like what happened there. Well, we can use brushes to counteract some of that. And I'm going to reset it, and I was going to show using some brushes. Here we go. Lilac. Okay, I loved it. It's soft. It's feminine. It's beautiful. But it made her skin a little pink, more pink than I want it to be. So for this one, I'm going to use the brushes and how you find the brushes once you've installed them. And again, lately when I've helped people at the help desk, a lot of times they're installing the brushes perfectly correct, but they don't know where to find the brushes. So if you've never installed brushes, you copy the individual files into the local adjustment presets folder. It's all in the installation guide that we provide, plus the videos show how to do it. Once you've installed it and you've restarted your Lightroom, your brush icon is just below your histogram. So if your histogram's open, there's the brush. If your histogram is closed, here's the word histogram and here's the brush. Click on brush. Now, the other problem is they'll click on the brush and they still won't find the brushes. You have to click on whatever word is to the right of the word effect. See this word effect? And then we have the temp slider. So above the temp slider to the right of the word effect. And then we can see our brushes. Now, I have learned that some people are not finding it because their panel is collapsed. I click this little black triangle, so there it's open, there it's closed. So they just have an amount slider. So they're trying to install, and we're telling them, well, it's just right above the temp slider. And they're like, but I don't have a temp slider. So if you're not seeing all those options, you can click this black triangle and it's going to open up and you'll see all these lovely options you have here for effects that you can utilize. And you just click, and whether it's closed or open, it's still here. So we're going to click there. I just want to show you how you can open this up to get all of these fantastic choices here. Okay, so once you've installed your individual brush files into local adjustment presets, restarted your Lightroom, and clicked in here, here's the Enchanted Garden brushes. And I have an account. Let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 brushes. Okay, that come with the set. Now what I'm going to use is Balance Pink on Faces. So I'm going to click on that. When you're using the brushes, what you want to pay attention to is down here below the sliders, or even if you have it collapsed, this hopefully is open. If you're not seeing size, feather, flow, and density, if you're not seeing any of that, it's probably because you have it collapsed. So what you need to do is click on the triangle, and then it will open up. Okay, so the flow, if the flow's up to 100%, then all of this change is going to be shown. We're going to see all the change that is available with this brush. If the flow is reduced, say, to 46, 47, then we're only going to see 47% of that change. So it's like restricting how much we see. Now, if we keep clicking and brushing and clicking and brushing, it's going to build up to 100%. So this is cumulative right here. The density is not cumulative. If you set it at 50, it's going to stay at 50, and it's never going to go above it. Number one problem, when people say their brushes suddenly stop working, they were working fine, and now they're not. Every single time that we get a ticket in like that, it is always because their flow or their density has been moved way down, so that when they brush, they're not seeing any change. So if this happens to you in the future, write a little note to yourself. If brushes suddenly stop working, check the flow and density. All right. So I'm going to move this flow up. The feather is how much it blends into the pixels around it. And anywhere from like 50 to 100 is good and nice and soft and blend in to the pixels around it. Okay. So I'm going to move this down just a little bit. And then brush on the face here. So we have a little bit less pinky skin. I can turn the brush off so that we can see the whole brush panel. I can turn it off down here. There's a little box that says this white and one that is black. And if you hover over it, it pops out and says turn off brush adjustments. So I'm going to click that. So there's before and there's after. So just help warm up her skin and take off some of that pink tone that was on there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click New. And so here we were correcting something. But what if the preset also pulls out some color and we want to add a little more color into it? We can do that with Color Boost. We can also enhance greens, lavenders, pinks, yellows. If you've got grass that looks real dead, if you're in an area that the grass hasn't come back to life just yet, isn't green, it's kind of brown and or grayish, this will help with that. Here in South Carolina, everything's too green too soon. I feel like we don't have long enough winter. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to use the enhanced greens because the grass is not dead here. It is green, so I'm just going to enhance green. If you feel like the change isn't enough, and even if you move up the flow, now if you change the flow after you've brushed, it doesn't go backwards. It's not retroactive. You have to brush again to get a little bit more. Now, if you feel like you still want more, just click New, okay, and then do it again. So now it's adding on a whole nother layer of greenness to the green. That makes sense. All right. So we can turn it off. See, there's before Before the de-pinking her skin and greening the grass, and after. If we want to see before and after of the preset plus the brushes, then I'm going to collapse my panels by hitting the tab key. Okay, so my panel's collapsed. The next thing I'm going to do is hit Y, the Y key on my keyboard, and I instantly have a before and after. So that is before and after with lilac, and then I corrected the pink on the skin, I greened up the grass. Now I would smooth her skin out. I could do more, but just within the presets and the brushes that come in the set, this is what we can do. Here are some other ones I've done. Let's see. There's Gardenia and Daffodil. Now, with this one, Daffodil, I feel like I love Daffodil, and it is fantastic preset. It really is. But for here, it's cooling her down a little bit too much, and I want to warm her up. So what we can do with the preset here is go to the bottom of the collection, and it says white balance warmth. So we can add some warmth right there. So it really warmed up that image. But what if it did too much? I'm going to back up, Command Z or Control Z. Z is in zebra. That will take you back a step. We can also try this white balance fix there or there, but it's not what we want, right? Okay, that warmed it up a little bit. The other thing we can do is there is a, come in here. There's a haze warm. Sometimes it does add a haze. Sometimes it just adds a little bit of extra warm light. So we could pull that across as well if we wanted to warm her up even more. Got my overlay here. All right, so I'm going to delete that. And you can use that as a brush. So if you think, well, I like everything else, I just want to warm her up a little bit, then we can do the haze warm and just warm her up just a little bit. Okay, now I want to show an example of, and there's actually another one I could have used. So this image right here, straight out of the camera, is underexposed. And she's battling this backlight, and sometimes it can be challenging to properly expose when you've got a heavy backlight flooding your area here. And so this one's underexposed. I brightened it up and brought it back into Lightroom. So here it is, brightened up in Lightroom. Okay. Now, I am going to show Spring Drama. Okay. All right. So this one, it made it dark, it made it contrasty, and if you were just playing with the presets, you think, oh, this doesn't look good. We come over here to the one that's been brightened up, and yes, it is very hazy because of that backlighting, and we do the same thing. We get a much sweeter picture, and all the presets are going to look better on the one that's more properly exposed than on the one that's dark. Okay, I have another one here that was kind of, this one's a little underexposed, just a little bit. And so when I played with the presets, let me see which one. Here we go. Okay, so Peony, and it is beautiful, but watch what happens when we brighten up just a little bit. It just is, it takes it to another level. So if this image was properly exposed coming out of the camera, then we wouldn't feel, we wouldn't have to come in and tinker with this. Unfortunately, with this one, we can still see that it's a beautiful preset, but sometimes when those images are underexposed and you apply the preset, you're like, oh, no, that looks terrible. Well, it's not the preset, it's the changes applied on an already dark picture. That's what's happening. So if you are playing with presets, I don't care if it's this collection, it's a previous collection, and you're applying them and you're thinking, they all make my pictures so dark. the problem is likely that your images are underexposed to start with. And maybe you're just new to photography and don't realize that yet. It does take a while, and I speak from experience. When I first got started, I didn't realize what was properly exposed, what was underexposed. And so give it a chance, and then if everything seemed dark, just come over here and brighten it up, brighten it up, brighten it up, and you'll be much happier. Okay. Let me come over to this one right here. I'm trying to do some educating as we go through it. Okay, so this picture, the thing to know about this one is that the white balance is already pretty cool. I mean, starting out straight out of the camera, the white balance is cool. And so some of the presets may accentuate that, all right? So just fair warning, if you start out with a really cool image already and you apply presets, it may make it even cooler. And how you know if your image is cool, too cool, before you have an eye for it, is you can mouse over their skin area, okay? And if you see below the histogram, so here's our histogram, and I want you to look at the numbers that pop up just below the histogram. Okay, so you see the red is 70.8, the green is 62.2, and the blue is 64.5. The blue is higher than our green, and we can know without a shadow of doubt that this image is too cool, because the blues should never be higher than the greens. They should be a little bit lower than the greens. So if I was just to fix this a little bit and warm this image up just a little bit, I actually would probably pull this a little bit that way. Better. So now we have red at 68, and I'm in a different location than I was before. 63.4, green is 54.4, and blue is 50.8. So that blue lowered down and really had a good effect on the image. Let me do this. Okay, let me split this. Zoom you up. There we go. Okay, see the difference? Left side is too cool, right side is warmer, and it's acceptable. So if your images are often coming out of the camera very cool, then the presets may accentuate that, and just know that. And you can tweak it with the white balance settings at the bottom, or those presets, or just tweak the temp and tint sliders yourself. All right, now let me okay. So with this one, I really enjoyed this sweet picture, and I am going to first use Azalea. And this one, the image is just a little dark, just a little bit dark. So you can tweak it with exposure here, or if you go to the filters, the filter icon. So we have our brush icon, we have the radial filter, and then we have the graduated filter. If you click, it looks exactly like our brush settings, doesn't it? Click just like you would for the brushes, and we have access to all of the Enchanted Garden brushes. So you can use these as graduated filters as well. So I'm going to do add light. So I'm just going to drag it all the way across. So it's going to flood that whole area with light. Okay, so we brightened it up a little bit. And I like the haze everywhere else, but I don't want the haze on her. Don't want the haze on her. So what I'm going to do is use the preset that clarifies the haze. So we're going to do that. I'll make my brush smaller, and you can do that without coming over here and doing size. This is a waste of time. Don't use this little size slider in the panel. Instead, use one of two different ways. If you look at your keyboard at the letter P and you go to the right, there's a right bracket key and a left bracket key. The right bracket key will make your brush smaller. the left bracket key will make it, bigger, and the left bracket key will make it smaller. The other way, and the way I love to do when I have my mouse with me, is if you have a scroll wheel in the middle, like with a Logitech mouse or whatever, if you push away, it makes it bigger. If you pull towards you, it makes it smaller. If you have a Magic Mouse, there is no wheel, but the center is like a wheel. So I'm using the Apple mouse. I push away, and it makes it bigger. So I'm just putting my finger down on the mouse, put down, and drag back towards me, and it makes it smaller. Okay, that will save you time. So here I'm going to clarify the haze, so we don't have so much haze on her. And we could do it multiple times if we needed to. If we felt like that wasn't enough, then I could do it again, but maybe lower it down so it's not as strong. So that we get a hazy look, but then she's not so hazy. I love the hazy effect, except for when it really dulls out the person or the face. I feel like I need to see more of the face, more detail. And so I love that the Clarify the Haze allows us to have haze everywhere except for the face. We can dehaze that area. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do is, I feel like her skin's a little pinkish, so I'm going to do the Balance Pink on Faces, and don't forget the rest of the skin, so I'm going to do her arms as well. Now, when you brush, you're always seeing this red. All that's doing is showing you where you're going, and you can turn it off or on with the letter O on your keyboard, O for overlay. And all it's doing is showing you where you brushed. And sometimes I really like to use the overlay so I can be very specific. Other times I don't have it on so I can see the change immediately. Whereas if I'm using the overlay, I don't see the change. So like with this one, I wanted to see her skin get less pink to make sure that it was the right flow, or if it's yellowing her skin too much, I need to reduce the flow, that kind of thing. But it's up to you. Now, sometimes we get in tickets, people saying that the brushes are turning everything red, and what it is your overlay mask is on. So you just have to turn it off, all right? So there it's on, and if I hit O, okay, the other thing you can do, if you forget the keyboard shortcuts, it's down here at the bottom of your screen. See where it says Show Selected Mask Overlay? So here if I turn it on, the overlay is there, and there it's not. If these little pins, you're not seeing the little pins when you use a brush, come over here and see where it says Show Edit Pins. I have mine on auto. You can choose to always see them. You can choose to never see them, or just selected ones. Sometimes people have it at never, so they're never getting to see where their pins are. And why that might be a problem is if you need to go back in and adjust one. I have mine on auto, and what that means is that when my screen, my mouse is in the image, the pins show up, and then when I mouse away from the image, they go away. And that's what works for me. So if I want to see them without the pins, I just move out of the image. And I come back in and I can say, okay, well, this one I need to do whatever. I need to change this and do this. That's what works for me. Okay. If we then say, well, I feel like we need to do, want a little more drama in the background or what have you, or color boost, we can do that. So I'm going to click on Add Drama, and we can just brush that effect on wherever we feel like we want to add a little more drama. Can we do that? Now, if you did something and then you're like, man, it's a little strong, you can delete it and start over. So we could delete it by hitting the delete key. And then if it's too strong, come down here and reduce the flow and start over. Okay, that's one way. All right. Okay. The other way is we can turn this on its side and have just an amount slider. All right, so if we reduce the amount, see how it lightened it up? But if we say, oh, we want more than that, then I can move it up and it's going to accentuate it. So if you brush it on and it's too strong, you could always start over, or you can turn it on its side, collapse it by hitting the black triangle in the top right corner of the brush panel, and then just move the slider amount down to the left. That's one way. And the other way is just to delete it and start over. Okay. All right. Now, I think I'm going to come in here and add a little vignette. I think that's what I did before, a little soft vignette. All right, I like that. We might say we want a little more light in the center, so we can do, there's warm light, creamy light. We need to cool it down. There's cool light. If you don't want any of that, I'm just going to back up. Okay. She's bright enough. All right, so this is one I'd already done before, so I'm going to reset it. And I had note to try Gardenia on this one. Here we go. So Gardenia gave this one a lot of color, Now, again, she's a little pink on the skin, so I probably use the Balance Pink on Skin preset. You might also come down here and try the White Balance Fix. And it may not fix it, but I'm going to try it. So no, it made it a little pinker. That made it warmer. You can also try White Balance Warmth or Cool. But for this one, probably our best bet is to do the Balance Pink. All right. Check your flow. It's going to remember what you did last. So if you messed with the flow on the last preset, that's what it's going to be at the next time. Oh, I already did Gardenia. Balance Pink brush. Okay. So there's before and after. And that was just one click. That was Gardenia and the Balance Pink. And that was all I did for that edit. It's beautiful. Alrighty. Okay, so if you haven't got questions, start typing them in or write them down so you can ask later. All right. Let's see. I thought this is a great one as an example of tweaking those white balances at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to show you. I took some notes here, so I'll make sure I follow my notes. Okay, so Tutti Frutti. Wow, that is different and made her way too yellow. And you might think, well, that one's not going to work. On to the next one. But wait, you'd be surprised. Watch what happens when I do the White Balance Fix 2. Almost a completely different preset, isn't it? It really balanced out that white balance. Okay, so now, what has happened sometimes is that a lot of these presets right here are going, so let me reset. Okay, it's choosing auto white balance. And Lightroom, while it may do a great job with a lot of pictures with auto white balance, with some other pictures it may not do such a great job. So for here, it's not doing such a great job. So this one instead takes it to a custom white balance where they've tweaked it a bit. Okay, and I love this. I mean, it is incredible to me, the difference. Incredible. It's incredible. That was Tutti Frutti plus White Balance Fix 2. I'll do another one. There's also a reset here, so we can reset the image over here. And I'm going to do Spring plus Drama. Okay, same problem. Look at that. The hair looks way too yellow. And I'm going to do the White Balance Fix 2. So different, a little bit darker. So I'm going to do Creamy Light Center. Beautiful. So this one, the Tutti Frutti made this a little bluer looking, and here we retain the lavender look and vivid, bold colors. I love it. That one was Pretty Spring plus Drama, and the white bounce fix 2 and creamy center light. All right. Okay, let's see. Now, this little picture right here, none of these are my images, I promise. I have to say that I don't think there's a preset in the world that would look better in this picture because it is so precious and perfect, really straight of the camera. It really is beautiful. There it is. It's a little cool, and it is a little hazy. You know, there's not much clarity or contrast to it, but honestly, it's gorgeous. And whoever took this picture, and I'm not sure who it was, but man, I love it. So let me just play with a few things. So I'm going to do Peony. Isn't that beautiful? One click. It's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. That was Peony. Let's see. I'm trying to think some of the ones I haven't used. Let's look at Tutti Frutti on this one. Okay, so Tutti Frutti changes the color of the pink a little bit, doesn't it? Well, not very much, but it seemed to, didn't it? Let's see. But I'm telling you, I like every one of these. Azalea. Now, Azalea, I felt like I love the warmth of Azalea. It's very sweet, but it's a little dark for me, and then I don't want the haziness, right? So what we can do is we could do the center light and see if that works for us. Okay, you might say, okay, I love it. It's enough light. It's beautiful. But I want to kind of dehaze her a little bit. So clarify the haze. And I'm going to clarify the haze. Probably do all of her here. And again, if it's not enough, then hit new and do it again. And I think what else here? If we wanted to do anything, if we want to like enhance the lavender of her dress, we could do that here with Enhanced Lavenders. I'm just kind of gonna give a little more color to that dress. And we can enhance the greens. By the way, in addition to the balanced pink on faces, there's a correct orange red. So if a preset makes a little orangey reddish areas, then you can use that to do that. We could do Add Drama. And the thing with this, I want to show you, with the Add Drama, you can put it everywhere or just in particular areas. So if we want to just brighten up the trees or darken up, add more drama to the trees, we could do that. If we wanted to do it just on her dress, we could do that. I'm going to back that up. The other thing you could do with that is do it with a graduated filter. So remember, all of those brushes can also be used as graduated filters. All right. Like I said, this one, it's impossible to have this one look bad. It's beautiful. All right. This was one of my favorite ones to play with. So I'm going to reset it. Because I felt like this one as well, and all the presets look good on it once I brightened up the picture. So here is Azalea. Anything? Oh, well, it's because it's a little underexposed. If we brighten it up a little bit. Oops, I didn't want to do that. That's the brushes. Oh, here we go. We brighten it up a little bit. Much better, right? This also made it great for a great black and white. Okay, so I'm going to do Bluebell. Now, Bluebell had an extreme effect on this picture, didn't it? Well, I'm going to brighten up the image. Again, it was underexposed to start with. So any areas that were problematic because it's underexposed are just going to be accentuated by any preset, unless the preset has built-in, exposure correction. And most presets are made based on the assumption that the image is well exposed. All right, so I'm going to increase the exposure in the basic panel. Woo, much better, right? There's also a brush in here that if the matte effect is too much for you, then it's lighten matte effect. So here we can try and lighten up that matte effect and get a little more detail back. So where we might want to lighten that up. Okay, we can turn off, so there's without it, there's with it. And if we felt like we needed more on the chair, then we could do it again. So we can bring back a little more of that texture of the chair. So the lighten up haze effect will really help with a few of these presets that create that matte effect, and it might create too much. Like you're thinking, well, I love this, but it's a little too much matte here and there, and you can use the brush to counteract that. I love that. The other thing here is I did brighten it over here, but what if I didn't? So here it is without the exposure fixed. That's without the exposure fixed. It might be enough if we just do the creamy center light or cool center light. So there it brightened it up a good bit, just in the middle. So when that happens, so we had an image that's underexposed. And if we just brighten up the middle, what we have done is built in a vignette as well. So a vignette is when the areas around the outside are darkened, typically. All right, and what that does is it draws your attention into the subject, because you can have a vignette that's off-centered a little bit, or right in the, just comes in, and so whatever is in that central area here is going to be our focus. So it's drawing or leading our eyes into the subject. When the image is underexposed and we only brighten the center, then we have created a vignette. We don't need to add one to it. So here we've got a beautiful image. I love this as a black and white. I mean, I love it. If this was my daughter, I would print this huge in black and white. I feel like this has a lot of drama, a lot of emotion. I love that. Okay, this one right here. Now this was a sweet picture straight out of the camera. Beautiful redhead, fair skin. I mean, she's gorgeous. I love the red hair. Love the red hair. And you can tell it's early spring there, starting to get a little bit of the grass coming back. And this one, you don't need much for this picture. So some of these presets, and this is wonderfully exposed, but some of the presets will look better than others. And here I love this haze, but we pinked up the skin a little bit. So you can go through and try different ones. We've got a black and white. That's blackthorn. There's bluebell. Cherry blossom. But again, see the pink on the skin? But the brush is there for you to balance that out. There's daffodil. Daffodil is one that looks good almost every picture. We have dogwood. Fleur. Again, just balancing out that pink skin. This was a good example of how, with some of these presets, the skin gets pinked a little bit. There's Gardenia, lilac, Lotus, which is almost perfection on this picture. I mean, I love it. That's one click. Whoops. That's not what I wanted to do. I love it. I mean, I love that. And I need to, okay. I'm just going down here. And magnolia, marigold, peacock. Now this was one I really liked as well. I feel like it was light and airy. It made her blue in her eyes really come out. I loved it. Her skin is a tiny bit pinked, just a little bit, and it's a little bright. It's just a little, like it brightened her up just a little bit too much for me. So what we could do if we wanted to is just darken this a little bit. Just darken it a little bit. Okay. We pull those highlights down just a little bit. Just darken her a little bit. And then do the balance pink on faces. Just warm her back up a little bit. Make sure to get the hands and other areas that are showing. You can see what that did. So there's before the balance pink. There's after. And no other brushes. This is it. If we wanted to add a few more brushes from the Enchanted Garden, we could do that. Ooh, I'm running out of time. Let's see, I'm going to enhance the greens. Man, it's gone by fast. That's what happens when I start playing with presets. It goes by fast. Oh. Done. There we go. And this is very autumny feeling. You know, it's very warm. I mean, you could almost think this is an autumn picture. That the grass is starting to die off, trees are losing their leaves. Here, it's very spring-like, isn't it? I love that. Okay. Oh, this one right here. We'll do one more picture. And I think this is so sweet. She's in the middle of like dancing and twirling. And oh, I think I have copied that. I did copy the before. All right. There we go. All right. So we have the before shot, and we can go through and do each one of them again if we wanted to. But I think what I played with was Daffodil here. Look at that. Instant color, instant contrast and clarity. It is Daffodil is like a one-click perfect spring preset. It really is. And if we wanted to add some center light to it, we could add warm or creamy or cool. So we're just going to do creamy. That adds a little bit of a haze to it. Here, if we wanted to warm it up, we could. I think I like the creamy. And if you don't like the haze it did, you just go in here and add clarity to that. If you wanted to add haze to a particular image, then, you know, say if you find one that you really like, but you want to make it, you know, a little hazier. Oh, I love Lotus. Isn't that beautiful? That's Lotus. Oh, it's gorgeous. That's just one click. That's Lotus. Nothing else. It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. So I've taken up an hour. And so I want to make sure we have time for questions. Oh, before I get questions, because I know the question's there. Why snapshots? Why didn't I make virtual copies? Okay. So let me do it, let's say, with this one here. Okay. Now, when I edit, when I go through and I like to make different versions, so maybe I want to make just a clean edit, you know, just a basic clean edit, and let me do that. So if I'm just going to do a basic clean edit, maybe add some exposure and put down just a little bit of clarity. So I would do different things with it. And honestly, I don't ever do it this way. I usually, if I just do a clean edit, I do the workflow. That's what I use, the workflow presets collection. Down here, pretty presets workflow is what I do. So I'm just click, 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 click. Because this takes me too much time. I have to be particular. Okay, so let's say I just want to have a clean edit. All right. Then I use some presets and I get like lilac. This has a few brushes on it. Oh, this one was a good one. I have to do this one too, real quick. All right, so I have to do this one. All right, lilac. A little dark, skin's a little pinky, And so what I did here, what you could do is the creamy center light, like that. You could, and then I also use the brush, Bounce Pink on Skin. Whoops, I was in the filters. Okay, and that's look, now this is a good example. This does too much, did it too much, so it's too yellowy. So if I feel like it's just a little pinky, I'm going to pull down the flow and only do a little bit. Just a little bit. And then the other thing is, I'm going to do new. I'm going to keep that same one, but move the flow up. So let's say I don't want this pinky look here, up here, like it's too pinky for me. So I kind of come in here and balance that out a little bit. And then the other thing I would do is enhance the greens just a little bit. Okay, so then we have a new edit. So with these, I have the Bluebell, all right, and then the Clean Edit, the Lilac 2, and then we have Straight of the Camera, right? And I can play with it and do different ones, and then I can come back and say, okay, well, which one do I like best? Do I like this one? Do I like this one? Do I like Bluebell? What if I want 3 different versions? I want to give the client 3 different. So I have them all here. And the nice thing about the snapshots is they stay forever. So if you close down this picture, you don't close it down, but you leave Lightroom, and a year from now you come back, then snapshots are with you. And so is your history. And if I wanted to export 3 different versions, now I could create virtual copies. And there's a shortcut, and I forgot what it is. Just I right click and choose virtual copy, and then I can do it again. All right, so I have 3 virtual copies. Or I have 2 virtual copies and 1 original. So there's this one, and then 2 copies. So on this original, I can go with the Clean Edit, come over here to this next one and say, all right, I'm going to choose Bluebell. My snapshots go with as I create virtual copies, the snapshots are there as well. So it just saves me time. And then I'll say, okay, I want Lilac. All right. I think I want that one. Now I've played more with the brushes and filters and stuff. I want this one. Okay. So now I can highlight all 3 and export all 3 of those versions at once. And then I give them how, they print or disk or thumb drive, whatever you do, or whatever I happen to do that case. And then later in the library, I isolate the virtual copies and get rid of them. Because I don't like seeing 3 different versions of the same picture. I can just keep the one, just this one, because it has all those versions in it. Whereas some people will create 5 different virtual copies and have those cluttering up their library. And no, it's not a lot of space, but it's just a lot of visual clutter, seeing those. So that's just what I do. I make all my edits snapshots, and then when I want to export, I create those virtual copies, choose the snapshots I like, and export, and then later get rid of those virtual copies and only keep the original. All right. It's a lot of information in a short period of time, wasn't it? I know it. It's hard. Wish I could have 4 hours, although nobody would want to sit through a 4-hour webinar, right? All right. I'm getting a little wheel of death here. Okay. There we go. Oh. I can't get to the questions because it's giving me a little apple wheel. Oh no, I am so sorry, y'all. Oh, there we go. It came out. Okay. I can't move. All right. Do you need to reset after each preset, or it resets on its own because it overrides the previous one? Melissa, in theory, yes. You should be able to go click, 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 click. However, possibly when things are recorded, they may have not checked all of it, and so sometimes a holdover from a previous preset maybe that's, it's not competing, may be applied. I just tend to hit reset in between them. It's just what I do, or I do Command Z to back up and then play the next one. It's just work. You said you can't get the corrected orange to work. It seems to make it more orange. Then it might be, then what you're seeing is, it might be your screen, Melissa. So what the problem is, it's not orange. It's something else. Maybe it's, it might be, magenta. I will tell you this, that your monitor is a big deal. And I say that because my Surface I have a big PC monitor and the colors are crazy, crazy bad, crazy. So I see a lot of heavy magenta when there's none there. Does that make sense? So it could be your monitor. The correct red-orange really does balance out. So what that is doing is pulling out a little bit of that color and balancing it out so that it's not so red. It's so it could be your monitor. The green, enhanced green, will enhance anything that has green in it, as well as yellow, because there's a lot of yellow in green. So sometimes when you brush over it, it may affect that. So the question was, does the enhanced green only do grass? It'll do anything that's green. Anything that's green. So a bush or a tree, could be, green shirt. So the enhanced greens, there we go. Make sure that. And if we have some green here on this barn, then it's going to enhance that green as well. And it could turn other things green. So if we do it, see how it's like turning into blue? See, it's like a blue there. So if you can brush it over stuff, but it's not going to have the same effect as it would on green. Does that make sense? So it's only going to green up greens. It'll do other things to colors that aren't green. That's a good question. I'm getting this little apple wheel that's not allowing me. Come on. Those who have apples know that little rainbow wheel, it's very frustrating. I think I need to declutter my laptop again. This only has a 128 gigabyte flash drive, and it fills up so fast. Even though I keep most stuff on a hard external, it will fill up with other stuff, and I'll have to de-junk it. Yeah, I had the GoToWebinar kind of bounced off for me, so I think some of y'all, it was quiet for a minute, and I don't know what that was. Let's see. Trish asked, why would you use the graduated filter tool to add light versus add light brush? That's a good question, Trish. Well, if I want the whole image to have light, then I'm going to use the graduated filter. And it's just quick because it's a click and drag up. And I could do the same exact thing with the brush, but I'd need to make my brush really big and then brush over the entire image. And so sometimes I like a little bit of directional light. So if I want a little directional light, then I'll do that. Come on. All right. So the question was, why would I not use the brush for add light? And here's this add light. So say I want to just add a little more light just coming from this way, like the light is shining on, actually it kind of looks like it's coming this way. So click and drag up so we get just a little bit more. And with this graduated filter, if we turn on this, only Lightroom 6 has this effect where you can see the overlay mask. If we turn it on, you see it's strongest here and it tapers off. So this is a very light effect, gentle, it's not in your face, add light. If I wanted to increase that, I could definitely bump that up. Okay. And so if we need to add a little more directional light to balance out, maybe one side's darker than the other. But also, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Delete. It's quick too, so if I just click and drag up, pull it all the way across, I can add light that way. So it's just, there's lots of different ways to do the same exact thing in Lightroom as well as Photoshop. That rule is true for Photoshop as well. And it's just kind of like what I chose to do. The nice thing too is once you do this graduated filter, if we wanted to add a little color tone to it, I could tweak it. If I say I wanted it a little warmer, I could warm it up. All right. That's a good question though. But I could have brushed it on. Now, when I generally use add light as a brush, I'm targeting it to just the person usually. So I only brighten up the person and the rest of the background is left darker. And that is definitely a possibility as well. But here I wanted the whole image to be lighter.